Guys, so I did a space call on Twitter. I'm just gonna go and re-listen to it. I'm probably not I'm just gonna be on doing something else, but I'm gonna let you guys listen to it. And I thought it was a good one. I might start doing these more often though. I don't know. We got at one point there was 80 people listening, so that was pretty cool. Let's see. I'll probably do it on fast forward so it's not 48 minutes long. Are you working?
Well, since this one's in and they don't have Redbox gets a chance. If it's like I got a chance to look at the and you go to the second link where it's 70%, I do not know what happened.
All right.
Anyways, I got a chance to look at the Redbox stuff, so I was just talking about how it bothers me that a lot of people are pushing Redbox because the short interest is supposedly high. But if you look at the Ortex, it says the short interest is 170% on 4 million shares. And if you look at the 10Q, so if you Google RDBX SEC filing and you go to the second link where it says NASDAQ, on the second file available on that page, it's going to say 10Q. And if you open that PDF and go down to the third page, 3/4 of the way down, you're going to see where it says that there's 500 million available Class A common shares. And so basically what that means is they can dilute up to 500 million shares. Literally, Redbox is in the same position that MULN was in February 26th when MULN went from went from the dollar to the $4. But what you got to understand about Redbox is if you go look at the dilution numbers, if you look at the stock price and count how many shares they have, anyone trying to squeeze Redbox, it's never going to happen. Maybe Redbox gets a sympathy squeeze after MULN goes up 1,000%. Maybe Redbox gets 200% if it's lucky. But honestly, what I'm thinking is the same people that are buying into MULN are buying into Redbox and buying into Ader and buying into BBIG and buying into probably even AMC and GameStop. They're probably going to take away as much money from retail as they can besides the one winner. And so there might be a couple stocks out there, maybe BBIG, maybe Nile, that will have a decent sympathy squeeze with MULN just because there was some dilution and they don't have a ton of shares left. But Redbox ain't it. If you're in Redbox, you're just clown talk. They got so many shares left to dilute. And so just like when MULN was 130% short interest, when we ran up all the way to 418, they were able to get rid of 100% of that short interest with zero upward price action by diluting and letting all the shorts cover for free. But then they diluted on top of that if we can drop this all the way back down to 72 cents, 78 cents. Yeah, I don't trust people that are pushing other stocks other than MULN. You got to be crazy. Well, since this one's being recorded as well, and the last one was recorded, but I didn't get all that MULN DD on the recording for this one, maybe I'll go over some of it again. What were the most important things? First thing, I guess, let's just go over the basics. Why is MULN the number one play in the whole stock market? It's because every once in a while, retail as a community, not of people that actually know each other, but just as traders, investors, and people looking to make a profit, come together and they start buying one stock. And certain signals get sent out that make it clear and obvious that retail has shown up to buy that stock. One of them is the stock price goes up. And so basically from when MULN hit its low in the middle of February, the end of February really, at 52 cents, and then 2 days later hit $1.95, up 150% almost, that was the original signal to MULN. The squeeze wasn't really guaranteed at that point. It was far from guaranteed, actually. But what happened? The next 2 weeks, after they dropped it from $2 to $1, and everyone got a little glimpse as to what MULN actually is as a company with great battery news, a beautiful car, the RS5, literally better than a Tesla. It is a high-end luxury vehicle. And they are also, just like many of the other companies, doing EV van deliveries. And all the other EV companies are doing EV van deliveries. Some of them, 10,000 have been done so far. I think it was Lordstown. But Lordstown's not the best example. But Lucid, I think there's one that had 100,000 this year. Obviously, Tesla's $1 million a year. Then the rest of them are all 10 to 20,000, and MULN saying they're going to do 25,000 this quarter. And so MULN actually is already showing better numbers than a lot of companies that have $20 billion market caps. So right now we're at a $500 million market cap. And retail got the word. They liked what they heard, and they traded 3 billion shares. And we found out after 2 weeks that there was 150 million shares diluted to the public float. And then 2 weeks later, we got an announcement that we went from 188 million shares outstanding to 244 million shares outstanding. So that's 56 million shares more diluted. And that was the time frame where we went from $2 to $4.18, and the short interest went up to 130%. And then just 4 days later, they announced another. So we went from 244 million shares outstanding to 296 million shares outstanding, and so another 52 million shares. And all of a sudden, the short interest evaporated. And then, as we dropped from $3 all the way down to 78 cents, we finally get the word a month and a half later that retail has increased the outstanding shares to 332 million shares, so another 40 million or so. And we have just hit the bottom that we started at when we bought our first 150 million shares in 2 weeks. And so we know that they don't have 150 million shares left. We know that since their last dilution announcement, we've traded 1.63 billion shares. And we know that literally almost everyone invested in the MULN, besides the early adopters that believed in it right when it hit $1 at March 1st or whatever, they're all down on their investment. So just like AMC, just like GME, a lot of people had to hold for a lot of losses before they got their gains. And MULN's no different. The only difference with MULN, the most surprising difference with MULN, is that we need right now today. So they have, like, if we assume that we're at 400 million shares with the next dilution announcement probably being around 70 to 80 million shares. If we assume that we're at 400 million shares right now, that means they only have 100 million more shares they could ever dilute. And at this price, that's only $130 million. There are 3 separate times I can point to AMC, actually 4 if you count the squeeze up to 72, where retail investment did at least $500 million worth of volume of actual buying over selling, and like proven by dilution the week later. $500 million worth bought in a single week, 4 different times. MULN hasn't seen more than 200 million in a period of dilution announcement, and that was the biggest shocker to me. I thought we were going to squeeze way sooner than we did because, like, it took just one of those events, and I don't know how it didn't happen. Like, a lot of people must have gave up on the market after the squeeze, but it's like, AMC was a good squeeze. Like, if you didn't make money on AMC, I don't understand you. I made money on GameStop before AMC, but that's another story. Anyone got any questions? Don't be shy. I'm still expecting to go green today. If not today, then tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then Friday. Honestly, so that's the other thing I haven't mentioned. So AMC had 0 shares in the indexes before the squeeze to 72. They sold every single one of their outstanding shares, almost, besides like 10 million held by insiders, right before the squeeze. Well, I mean, 6 months before the squeeze. And they diluted all their authorized shares that they could ever dilute, besides 70 million shares. But on the run-up towards 72, their 70 million shares that they had of available dilution dropped by 50 million shares. And so they only have 20, like, if you go to AMC's information, they only have 20 million shares that they could ever offer for more money. But the problem is that what they do is they sell every last share to retail until they can't fight the dilution war no more. And then they let the price run up until retail sells, and then they can curb off the FOMO. And then after that, they dump the shares into the indexes. And if retail ever decided to go try to squeeze the same stock all over again, they're going to dilute those index shares before they let you squeeze. So with that said, they're announcing that MULN's going to be going into the index on June 27th. And for me, that is 100% confirmation that we squeeze before June 27th because there are no shares available to go into that index until retail sells. Now, here's the thing. Think about this. We ran up to 418 and then fell all the way down to 78 cents and found out we got more dilution, which means retail bought more shares between that whole period. Like, less people cashed out and said the squeeze was over than people who just bought the dip. And so when you think about that, what was I going to say? Oh, so think about this. We're at $1.30 right now. Like, if we know you're not selling at 418, maybe some people out there are selling at $5, right? And so if we run from $1.30 to $5 right now, or in 3 days, do you think the rest of the world that has been sitting on the sidelines, like, there was a period in March where MULN became the number one Twitter, or not Twitter, but a watch list ticker added out of all stocks, and it was every day in a row for 2 weeks. And so it's literally on everybody's watch list, and a lot of people are just sitting on the sidelines right now. And so do you think that the number of people who are willing to sell at $5 is going to be less than or greater than the number of people that join us and see that MULN was supposed to be $5 or more the whole freaking time? And so if you think about it like that, I just feel like that's confirmation that the FOMO is going to crush the shorts. Like, that 500 million that came into AMC 4 separate times like 3 of them was when the stock price wasn't going up. So $500 million in a week and the price wasn't moving up. And then there was like $1.5 billion that went in. So if you do the AMC, like I told you, they did $50 million of dilution when it ran from $12 to $72. If you assume that was an average of $30 a share, that's $1.5 billion of retail buying power, going from $12 to $30, 200% gain, because everyone had it on their watch list and they weren't sure if it was a legit thing, and then it ran. And $1.5 billion jumped in. If it ran to $10, if MULN ran to $10 today, and that $1.5 billion of FOMO comes in, and every single one of us sell, and all new investors are in at the $1.5 billion, it's literally going to run to 20 or 30 until those people sell, because that was more than the entire market cap. At $10, we're only going to be a $5 billion market cap. Oh, man. So $5 would be a $2.5 billion market cap. So if we got the $1.5 billion FOMO AMC had, it would be like 70% would have to sell, and it would still just keep running to infinity until more people sold. Like, just trying to like, I didn't say the math 100% right on that, but if you understand what I'm saying about the FOMO, I mean, if you're looking at these polls, a lot of people saying they're selling until 20. And that, like, if you go, like, the best thing that I had, like, if you go to so I have a Reddit, it's called r/recipe for life 23. I posted a crap ton, like, you'd have to scroll for a long time, but you can go through. And if you see the polls that I did back in March, like, everyone was all MULN. And, like, I'd say, how much have you invested in MULN? 100%, 50%, 10%, 0%. And it's literally 70% of the votes are 100% or 50%. And if you don't think those ones that did 50%, and then after it crashed back down to 78 cents, came back in with their other 50%, I know they did. And so that's why we traded 1.63 billion shares in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, since March 16th or March 13th. How long is that? 3 weeks? Sounds like a perfect time for a new dilution announcement. Every dilution, we've had 4 dilution announcements. Every dilution announcement we've had so far was on a Monday. And the next dilution announcement we have is basically guaranteed to leave them with less shares than what they had with AMC when they exposed AMC. So AMC had 70 billion shares to control the dilution with, the squeeze with, from $12 to $72. They used 50 million of them by the end of the $72, and they still have 20 million in their pocket. But, like, if they only leave themselves with 70 million shares on MULN to control the squeeze, like, if they sell those 70 million shares at $5, that's only $350 million. That will not stop FOMO. Not even close. appreciate all you guys joining in. More people listening than I expected, honestly. Like way more than I expected. The other MULN space call can't get more than 20. Interesting. I probably should have been doing this a long time ago. Anybody got any questions? I've said a lot right there. Did you see insider selling? It's always good news because it's like the ultimate FUD they like to use in this world. Like all the shills, like when you see the bears, the bot accounts coming in and talking about how bad MULN is, like they love to talk about insider selling. Like they get loudest when insiders are selling. But like 2 weeks before the June AMC squeeze from $12 to $72, AMC CEO comes out and says, I've never sold an AMC share in my life and I just need to consider some things in my life. And so I'm giving 500,000 shares to my sons. And he gives 500,000 shares away so they can dilute. And then Wanda owned 30 million shares of AMC, and the week before, so AMC went from $12 to $72 in 1 week, and it all started on a Monday. So $12 and was $12.50 was the close on a Friday, went to $13.80 on a Monday, and then 5 days later hit $72. And the week before that, literally 1 week before that, Wanda, the original owner and builder of AMC for 13 years, sold all 30 million of their shares at an average of $14 a share for $450 million. 6 days later, we hit $72. That Monday, they announced the Wanda dilution. And so, like every Monday is the squeeze day for me. Like one of these Mondays is going to be MULN day. But because our market cap is so small, like when AMC closed, it was 400 million shares at $12 a share. So it was a $5 billion market cap. We're $500 million market cap. We're 10 times smaller. And they're going to have the same number of shares. Well, on the next dilution announcement, they're going to have the same number of shares that they can dilute as they did with AMC to control the squeeze. But again, we're 10 times smaller than market cap. So the 1.5 billion FOMO that went into AMC from 12 to 30, we're going to see at least $1 billion in FOMO people when we hit $5. And I don't think most of you are selling at $5. I know I'm not. If you want to speak on the space call, all you got to do is hit that speaker button. Go ahead, Rums. What you got to say? Rums is a bull for sure. You there, man?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
All right. I got a question for you. Why do you think there's no contracts like on, September, August, those couple of months, there's no like options on it?
I mean, have you looked?
Yeah.
What is it?
We got July's monthly, and then
I know there's
July.
over 100,000 contracts on October for sure.
Yeah, but why aren't there any on the thread, August and September? Do you have an idea of that?
I just think that, actually, that's a fair assessment. So if we look back on the options chain, I was on another space call and they were talking about MULN, and they said that MULN had no option chain back in March and April, and that is a gosh dang lie. So there has been since now today, if you add up all the Friday expiration options all the way back to March 1st, there has been over 300,000, if not 400,000 option contracts expire worthless out of the money. And there's probably been another 200,000 to 300,000 option contracts that were traded for a profit, that were like bought right at the money and hit a little swing and made 10, 20, 30, 40 extra money. And so what I would say is, if you looked when basically March 1st happened, there was over 200,000, I believe it was, contracts on March 31st expiration. March 31st went down as a catalyst day, and then the April 14th ended up having like 150,000, I think it was 90,000 option contracts expire worthless. And I have this data saved, so I can go back and do a real DD on this later. I'm just going off memory right now. But after the April one expired worthless, then there was the May 20th one. And the May 20th one, that one definitely had 150,000 options expire worthless. And basically every time that we saw the big chunk of expiration day go worthless, all of a sudden it got reloaded to a month out expiration day. And so we've already seen that when the May expired, we already seen the July's build like crazy. But on top of that, what we've seen whales go and buy more expensive options and literally spend millions of dollars on October options. But you gotta understand, they're not gonna hold those till October. They probably just got tired of losing money and said, you know what, I'm just gonna throw in $1 million here in October, and when it runs to 20 in June, July, August, or September, I'm gonna cash out for $20 million. And it's actually gonna be way more than that. If you buy stock and it runs to 20, you're gonna make 20 extra money, right? But if you buy October options, let's just say the $3 strike it's probably going for 30 to 40 cents a contract right now. If you buy those when it runs to 20, you're gonna make 50 extra money. So the people that threw, there was a day on those Octobers where one person bought 50,000 contracts, and unusual whales made a post about it. And so that one person was probably $300,000 in options, and he's about to 50x his money to $15 million when it hits 20. And so I think that a lot of option buyers just are throwing in a big chunk of whatever money they have in their life on an expiration day that they think will work, and then they're waiting to see if that day hits, and if it doesn't hit, they're throwing in more money on another expiration day. But I think they think just like I do that this is definitely going to hit. And look, there's several reasons to buy options. One reason to buy options is because it tells the world that retail thinks that MULN is going up. Like I promise you, all the call options on MULN are 100% retail buyers. Wells Fargo is not allowed to come in and buy options and steal money from Chase. They're not allowed. It's illegal. When the squeeze is going to happen, they can't do it. And so you're giving a sign to retail that you believe that it's going to move up largely. But then on top of that, another reason to buy options. When you buy stock and it runs to 20 and you sell that stock, you're selling it to either the portion that they're going to put into index funds, or you're selling to another retail buyer. But when my options run up and I make 200x my money and I cash that out for a profit, I just took money from Citadel. Now, I don't care if it's Citadel, I don't care if it's Melvin Capital or any of the others. One of those people, it got left holding the bag and is required by the contracts that they signed to be the liquidity on MULN, and that person's paying writing my check. And you guys better believe, after all this bullcrap of dilution and David Mickery helping the shorts cover at the end of March and all this other crap, I'm angry. I'm angry it's got to be this hard. If they would have gave us $10 back at March 31st, we wouldn't have seen above 20 for another year until we actually were buying the EV5. But instead, they said, no, Retail can't get paid. Stop retail at all costs. And they started a war that they cannot win. Retail always wins this war. And so I'm here to take hedgy money, and that's my number one motivator to buy options. Is I want to make them hurt more than I want to get rich. Oh man, but it helps that options also are guaranteed. Like you can go buy the 2024 strikes at the $1.50 strike, and you will make 10 more X's on your money when it squeezes to 20 than people buying stock. And you know by January 2024, this is going way past 20. Like, let's be real. So, like, it doesn't matter which option you buy, how bullish you are. Like, make your own decisions. Everyone's an adult. Buy some that might be a little risky. Buy some that are guaranteed to print. Like, you can buy more than one strike, people. So, I love options. I'll tell you that. Like, without option chain, you can never trust the squeeze. Like MULN going from 52 cents to $1.95 and then getting crashed in one day back down to $1, and then seeing every day for 10 days straight options being bought at $500,000 to $1 million a day. That was the sure sign to me that retail likes the stock. Without that, like I was looking at all the other squeezes that they were saying, like because like my Reddit posts were getting massive traction, and so all of a sudden all these other stocks started coming out as the new squeezes, and I would go check the open interest volume, and guess what? Call options nowhere to be seen. MULN was standing alone. Now after like a bunch of pump and dumps happened, like Ader, Redbox, there's a few of them. Redbox got its own option chain just to entice people, but because Redbox didn't start with an option chain a month ago. But when all this stuff happens, it's a sure sign that retail likes the stock. And so, yeah, I'm way bullish on options. I appreciate that question. Since May 20th, there has been over 150,000 option contracts bought. Most of them, it's probably half of them July and half of them October. What up, man? BC3484.
Yeah, man. How do you think maturity helped these shorts? You were saying back in March.
Yeah. So if you look at like there's this guy named Will Mead on Twitter. He was saying that MULN short interest was 130% all the way even past when we hit $4.18. Right, and so basically we hit dilution. They announced a dilution from March 1st to March 14th, 150 million shares. Then they announced from March 14th to March 28th, 52 million shares. Then from March 28th to March 31st, after the 418, when we dropped down to $3, they announced another 50 million shares of dilution. Now, here's my opinion. I believe from March 14th to March 28th, we actually bought 100 million shares, but they added 50 million shares of short interest, and then they used the failed to delivers to extend the actual purchase from retail. And then David Mickery brought in that extra 48 million or 50 million shares of dilution in just 4 days, and used it for shorts to cover, and cost of shorts nothing. How do we go from 130% short interest to 0 shares short, and the price moved down? Mathematically, we understand as physics that when you cover your short, the price moves up. It does not move down.
Yeah, but I don't understand what he has to gain by doing that.
The best way that I can understand it, now this is speculation, I can't guarantee it, is that he's not his own man. Like, this is a global economic thing that's happening right now, just like GameStop was all over the news for weeks at a time, because it was, like, they have to control the narrative of this global thing that's happening, and it's going to affect the whole world. Like, retail's only going to become more aware after the MULN squeeze. We don't get dumber after this squeeze. And so they're basically just driving this to the last possible second they can. But the beautiful part about that is that we get the highest price imaginable. So, like, I believe that in March we would have hit $10 and never got above $10 had they just given us $10. Because a lot of people would have been so impressed with their profits so early that they would have cashed out. They could have used dilution at a much better price and just left the remaining FOMOers as bag holders. But then until like they actually start making their company and their cars and their batteries and all the good things that are to come, and like a year, all those people get paid anyway. So not a big deal. It's a good company, and that's why it works. That's why it works, because everyone saw the company March 1st. They heard David Mickery speak about it, and they liked the stock. Like, this isn't just a squeeze. They actually like the company. And so here's the thing. David Mickery's put in a ton of hard work. He deserves props for his company and the things that they're going to do in the future. I wouldn't like rag on him for that part. I believe that he works hard to be successful. But I also believe that he was super pissed to dilute all of his shares under $5 a share just to protect the stock market. I believe he didn't want to do that, and that he got forced to do it.
Yep. I don't know. He threw a wrench in it for me when he sold the 750,000 shares like a couple weeks ago.
I mean, it was like a week ago, and then 2 days later, we went up 50%. Like, literally, that's another thing where I believe he was told to do that so that all the fudsters on StockTwits and Reddit and Twitter can be like, oh, you're insider selling. Obviously, he doesn't like the stock. But he sold 3% of his shares, and we went up 50% 3 days later. Like, I think they knew volume was coming in. I think they knew. No, he's got 28 million shares, because 200,000 of his shares are able to convert into 20 million common shares. And so he actually has 28 million shares. Okay. But he, like, I believe somebody told him, hey, you got to sell some shares so we can spread some FUD, because some volume's about to come into MULN, and we need to limit that to the maximum so we can drag this out for a couple more weeks.
Yep. Well, keep up the good work, man. I've been with you since March, and I speak for a lot of people when I say keep up the good work, and don't let the fucking assholes, fill your head with any shit. You're doing the job.
I'm fine. I take this shit personally. Oh, man. I'm still impressed with how many of you guys showed up into this space call. I appreciate you guys. That's awesome. Who knew MULN Army was so strong? Anything good on Twitter? Yeah, guys. guys, I mean, for me, again, like the biggest things that I see right now is they can't put any shares into the indexes until we squeeze because there's no shares left to go into the indexes. So when they say MULN's going into the indexes June 27th, that tells me we're squeezing before June 27th. And then also on top of that, we traded 1.65 or 3 billion shares in the last 3 weeks. If you look at all the times that we've been announced dilution 4 times. So one time we were announced dilution in 2 weeks, March 1st to March 14th, and there was 3 billion shares traded. Another time we were announced dilution in 2 weeks, which was March 14th to March 18th, and there was, or March 28th, and there was like 1.5 billion shares traded. And then another time, they announced it later. They announced it like 3 weeks late, so they announced it like middle of April, but they only gave us dilution from March 28th to March 31st, and they announced another 50 million shares of dilution or whatever. But then they announced a month and a half after that. Well, it was actually like a month after the April announcement, but it was like a month and a half, so all of April 1st to May 13th dilution. And they announced that on a Monday. All 4 announcements were on a Monday, and that was like 1.6 billion shares traded. And the March 28th to the March 31st was like, I believe it was 900 million shares traded. And so in this last 3 weeks, we haven't got a dilution announcement, and we traded 1.63 billion shares. So if you like kind of add up the number of shares traded versus the dilution announcement, it would say that we're getting really close to a new dilution announcement. Now, I believe, like, remember, AMC squoze and still had 70 million shares in its pocket. Right now, if we get announced for dilution and we're at 400 million shares of dilution, they only have 100 million shares in their pocket, and their price is 10 times smaller than what AMC was. So they're going to have to hold those for longer. Like, they can't start diluting those at $5 or $10 or $20. Like, maybe 20 is when they can start. But, I mean, David Mickery says that he wants $1.3 billion, and in order to do that with just 100 million shares, that means he can't dilute until he's like an average share of $13 per share in order to get his $1.3 billion. But he wouldn't dilute all of them at that price if the FOMO is greater than $1.3 billion. And what do you think the FOMO is going to be when we go from $1.30 to $13 in literally a week? I think there's going to be some pretty big FOMO, people. And so remember, not only is he going to try to raise cash so he can run his company with 100 million shares, but he's also going to try to stop the squeeze from happening, or control the squeeze at least. So if he can do half of them at $13 a share, but the other half at potentially $30 or $40 a share, and then it never gets to 50, like, that's probably what he'll try to do. And like, again, that may not be David Mickery making that happen. I don't think the DTCC technically owns every share of every company. So like, he may not even have a choice. But yes, every Monday from here on out is going to be a squeeze for me. Like, that announcement that Wanda sold 30 million shares on a Monday, and they sold all in that last week, and there's 500 million shares, or $500 million put in by retail into AMC in that 1 week of like May 13th to May 20th. That announcement on that Monday, it went from $12.50 on Friday to $13.80, and then every day up until it hit $72. There was one day where it traded sideways and it fell less than 1%. But like, then they like held at $32 for 1 day, and then it ran to $72 the next day. And so, on the next Monday, like whether it's this Monday or the next Monday, when we get our dilution announcement, like, you have to expect the squeeze. If you see massive price increase with that dilution, you're like, I'm going to be screaming to the world, squeeze started, squeeze started, squeeze started. Like, that's all I'm going to have to say. And ain't nobody going to be able to tell me different. The next dilution announcement is the last dilution announcement. We are at the squeeze, people. All right, well, if there's no more questions, I'll give you guys like a minute to think of any questions you have. Otherwise, my phone's at like 20%, so I'm going to turn to 6 in battery. Any final questions?
If that deal don't buy, guys.
What up, Victor? Oh, looks like you disconnected after I let him speak. Maybe he'll go. There he is. What up, Victor?
Hey, what's up, man? Just a quick question. Have you got like a target price that you're looking to sell at, or are you just planning on letting this thing run and then sort of picking the moment? Or?
So here's the thing. Yeah, so here's the thing. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I got a lot of hopes that are going to happen. Like, I pray for the MOAS. Like, I'm always going to hold at least, let's just say, 10% of my shares for that, like, just to infinity. And if it goes to zero or it goes to infinity, like, I'll always hope that a MOAS can happen. But my plan is, once I hit $20, I'm gonna already have, let's say, about $5 million in my bank account. I'm probably going to take $2.5 million right off the top. After that, I'm going to take that other $2.5 million, and I'm probably going to, like, when it hits 20, I'll probably throw $700,000 on $15 puts and keep my other $1.5 million on my calls, or even roll my calls out to even higher strikes for a cheaper price. And then if it drops to $15, $12, I'll cash out those profits of those puts, and I'm going to throw them on $20 calls. And then if it runs past 20 and goes to 30, I'm going to take out the $20 profits, and I'm going to buy $20 puts, and I'm going to buy some more $40 strikes. And I'm going to play both sides for as long as I see volume and volatility. And I'm going to try to make as much money as I can over a 2 to 3 week period.
Oh, nice, man. Yeah, that's good, man. I appreciate all your insight. I'm pretty new to investing, so hearing all that insight you've got pretty good, man. Appreciate it.
So, like, if you got your own, like, here's the thing. If you're just a total newbie and you just got to make sure you got to make money, but you also don't want to, like, miss out on, like, incredible gains, take 30% out when it hits 20, take 30% out when it hits 25, take 30% out when it, and like, your 30% becomes a smaller percent of your total portfolio, right? So if you have 1,000 and you take out 30%, you now have 700 shares. If you take out 700 shares, you now have 500 shares. If you take out 30% after that, you now have 350 shares. And, like, there's a way to play it to where you don't got to necessarily do everything I'm doing, and you can still, like, buy in on the dips and all this other stuff, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I've still got a day job, so I can't quite be at a computer all day. I wouldn't happen this. I'm going to just fucking keep my prices and sort of hope they hit it.
For sure.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, again, I do appreciate all you guys showing up. You guys blew me away. Thank you for showing the love. I did record this, so there will be a recording on it. So if you guys want to go to my profile and share the recording and tell people it's a recording worth listening to, I'd appreciate you. Thank you.
Alrighty, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I might be doing some of those more often. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, it was a good one. At one point, there was 80 people listening at one time. That was pretty cool. Alright, guys. Go MULN. Every Monday is the squeeze day. Hopefully we squeeze tomorrow, Friday. But if not, then it's this Monday or next. Here we go.